Throughout history, the word circus has meant a lot of things. Yet, from violent spectacles to ethical abuse, it was all in the name of entertainment. Back in the days, people with unique conditions or bizarre talents were not celebrated. They were displayed. Men, women, and even children were taken from their homes and put under the spotlight, often against their will. They became freaks to the public, living exhibits for crowds hungry to gawk at what they didn't figure out. So, join us today, as we're going to look at the 15 circus freaks that actually existed. Number 15. Gladys Roy. While her three brothers flew planes for Northwest Airlines, Gladys Roy from Minnesota made headlines not from inside a cockpit, but from the outside. She became known for barnstorming, wing walking, leaping from aircraft at altitudes between 100 to 16,000 feet, and even once danced the Charleston mid-air. Her most outrageous stunt? A staged tennis match with Ivan Unger on the wings of a flying biplane, complete with rackets, minus the ball. At her height, Roy was earning between $200 and $500 per performance, equal to around $2,600 to $6,700 today. But by May 1926, her earnings had dipped to under $100 per act. "The crowds are beginning to tire of even my most difficult stunts," she admitted to the LA Times. "Eventually, an accident will happen and then..." That prediction sadly came true, but not in the air. While posing for a photo on the ground, Roy accidentally walked into a spinning propeller. She died instantly. Number 14. Lazarus and Joannes Colloredo. Italian conjoined twins. Lazarus and Joannes Baptista earned a living simply by existing. Their act was minimal, but their presence was unforgettable. Touring across Europe in the 1600s, they became some of the earliest documented freak show attractions, laying the groundwork for future carnivals centered on human oddities. But their story is uniquely strange. Joannes Baptista wasn't a full twin. He was a small, lifeless torso fused into Lazarus's chest. He couldn't speak or move on his own, but witnesses claimed he'd twitch or lift his arms when prodded. This alone fascinated onlookers and consistently drew huge crowds. Their appearances caused a stir everywhere they went, and reports suggest the brothers earned a comfortable income from their travels. They weren't acrobats or illusionists. They didn't have to be. Their mere existence was enough to bring in crowds and serious money. In short, they weren't just sideshow performers. They were early icons of a twisted, growing fascination with physical abnormalities. Number 13. The Fiji Mermaid. Sometime in the 1800s, the great P.T. Barnum devised a wildly profitable gimmick. While most entrepreneurs sold vacuums or bread cutters, Barnum's business called for something much stranger. So he unveiled one of history's most bizarre freak show hoaxes, the Fiji Mermaid. There are plenty of theories about how it was crafted, but the core trick stayed consistent. You take the lower half of a fish, preferably one with rough, bony features, and attach it to the upper torso of a monkey. The monkey's limbs are removed, of course, to make it resemble a sea creature. Add a layer of papier-mâché, scraps of fur, and paint, and boom, you've got a Fiji mermaid. People paid small change to see it, but it cost next to nothing to make. Barnum even let visitors see it for free in his museum, and ticket sales still skyrocketed. It was totally fake, yes, but the grotesque creativity behind it still earns it a rightful spot in sideshow history. Number 12. The Hottentot Venus. Sarah Bartman's stage name was the Hottentot Venus. She became a prominent sideshow figure during the 18th century due to Europe's twisted obsession with African natives. Her body drew crowds, some driven by curiosity, others by lust, and many under the guise of scientific study. Back then, people from different regions, including North America, Africa, and Asia, were taken to Europe and exhibited like exotic beasts. Some were abducted, others deceived. Khoi women, with Sarah as the most infamous, were promised fortune and fame for performing. These promises were lies. They were passed around by showmen like prized livestock added to a collection. They were often promoted as the African goddess of love. South African President Mandela later demanded the return of Sarah's remains from France, where she died at just 25. After being caged, ridiculed, and paraded abroad, she was finally laid to rest near her homeland on Women's Day, 2002, with the dignity that should have been hers all along. Number 11. General Tom Thumb. Barnum was already using living performers before he ever started gluing bones and fur together. Before the fake 161-year-old lady or the fake mermaid, there was his cousin, Charles. Charles was just 4 years old and hadn't grown much since birth. Barnum approached his father and pitched that the boy could make real money by joining the circus. At the time, with his size and age, Charles had almost zero options. So, Barnum taught him to sing, dance, impersonate, and act. They toured in the late 1700s, and Barnum partnered with Charles's father in the freak show circuit. Charles was just 5 when he debuted on stage as General Tom Thumb. Crowds were mesmerized by his humor and performance skills. Despite his condition, the kid could truly entertain. He quickly became a national sensation. He wasn't just a miniature act, he was the show's brightest spark. Barnum saw profit, sure, but the audience saw charm, wit, and talent. Number 10, Chang Yu-sing. Chang from China stood over 8 feet tall and weighed a solid 364 pounds. Barnum loved dressing him in long, flowing Chinese robes, believing they made him look even taller. In fact, Barnum exaggerated his height and marketed him as being 9 feet tall. When Chang joined the freak show, he leaned into the irony. Chinese people were often stereotyped as short, so a towering Chinese giant felt like the ultimate jackpot. The novelty made people stop, chuckle, and stare. Sadly, there aren't many surviving details of Chang's time in Barnum's lineup. Historians think his time there was likely brief, probably just a short contract where he took his pay and returned to ordinary life. Still, his presence was memorable enough to leave a dent in sideshow history. Even if it didn't last long, the sheer sight of someone that tall draped in ornate robes was more than enough for Barnum to spin him into yet another headline-worthy marvel. Number 9, the Warren Sisters. After General Tom Thumb's big rise to fame, P.T. Barnum decided to scout more proportionate dwarfs for his circus. That meant their bodies had to mimic adult proportions, just scaled down. Lavinia and Minnie Warren were sisters born 7 years apart, both affected by a pituitary condition. Their other siblings grew to standard height. Lavinia pursued acting, even landing a role in a silent film titled The Lilliputians' Courtship. She later married Tom Thumb, and of course, Barnum used the wedding as a full-blown publicity storm. Minnie Warren, pictured above, married fellow dwarf performer Commodore Nutt. Sadly, Minnie died during childbirth. Even Abraham Lincoln was taken with their charm. The president met them personally and reportedly praised their energy. The Warren sisters weren't just show acts. They became miniature celebrities. Their success proved that freak show fame didn't always come from horror or shock value. Sometimes it came from talent, charm, and Barnum's unmatched knack for marketing. Number 8, Pauline Musters. Musters was born in 1876. Pauline made history as the world's shortest woman, measuring just 58 centimeters tall. Her incredibly small frame wasn't only a medical marvel, it became her gateway to global fame at a time when human oddities were in demand. By the time she died in 1895 at just 19, from pneumonia and meningitis, Pauline had already made a lasting impression through her talent, warmth, and fearless personality. Her size might have been tiny, but her spirit was anything but. She lit up every stage with energy and magnetism that pulled audiences from every corner of the world. Performing in variety shows and international exhibitions, she became one of the most adored entertainers of her generation. Her charm, wit, and ability to delight made her stand out far beyond her rare stature. And just a few decades earlier, two sisters born into slavery would beat even tougher odds and rise to stardom as iconic performers. Number 7. Minnie Woolsey. Minnie Woolsey, lovingly nicknamed Cuckoo the Bird Girl, was born in Georgia in 1880 and diagnosed with Virchow-Seckel syndrome, sometimes referred to as bird-headed dwarfism. The condition gave her a tiny receding jaw, a narrow face, and a pointed nose that left a lasting impression. Yet despite her appearance, Minnie exuded warmth, wit, and contagious joy. She wore flamboyant bird-themed outfits, complete with feathers and a tiara crowned by a single plume, fully embracing her nickname. Her act blended quirky dance steps with spontaneous bird-like gestures that were both bizarre and magnetic. She would flap her arms, bob her head, and move with a rhythm entirely her own. Audiences were fascinated. Her most iconic role came in Todd Browning's 1932 cult film Freaks, where she appeared alongside other real-life sideshow legends. That role didn't just preserve her image, it cemented her status as one of the most memorable and unique performers ever to grace the strange, eccentric world of circus history. Number 6. Jack Earl. Jack Earl was born Jacob Reuben Ehrlich in 1906, and he grew into one of the tallest men the world had ever seen. At 10, he was already 6 feet tall. By 13, he neared 7 feet. Reports place his final height somewhere between 7 feet 7 inches and a staggering 8 feet 6 inches. His condition, acromegaly gigantism, caused his body to grow uncontrollably. Jack initially pursued acting, appearing in films like Hansel and Gretel and Jack and the Beanstalk, but a serious fall ended his film career. Later, Ringling Brothers and Barnum and Bailey invited him to join their lineup. Their reigning giant, Jim Tarver, didn't match Jack's height. Though Jack once swore he'd never join a freak show, financial strain changed his mind. On day 1, a dwarf named Harry comforted him by saying the real freaks were in the audience. Jack performed for 14 years before dying of kidney failure in 1952. Number 5. Fannie Mills. Fannie Mills, famously dubbed the Bigfoot Girl, might have looked like an ordinary woman at first glance, but one unusual trait made her unforgettable: her feet. That rare feature became both her ticket to fame and her income. Fannie had a rare condition called Milroy's disease, which caused extreme swelling in her legs, making her feet grow to massive proportions. From 1885 to 1887, she toured the East Coast, performing in dime museums that featured the bizarre and the unbelievable. Two-headed calves and other oddities included. Audiences came from all over just to see her enormous feet, which soon became the star of the show. At her peak, she earned $4,000 per week, a massive sum for that time. Her feet reached 19 inches in length and 7 inches in width. To handle them, she wore handmade shoes made from 3 goat hides and pillowcase socks. But after a stillbirth in 1887, her health declined. She died in 1892 at 39. Number 4. The Wild Men of Borneo. Barnum kept recruiting little people into his freak show, but now with more theatrical flair. He discovered Hiram and Barney Davis, mentally disabled brothers who each weighed just 45 pounds but could lift nearly 300. One of their top acts involved effortlessly hoisting audience members into the air. Barnum rebranded them as Wayno and Plutonor and invented an exotic backstory, claiming they were wild natives captured from the jungles of Borneo. The public believed it. Audiences bought the myth that Borneo was filled with savages who looked and acted like the Davis brothers. While performing at Barnum's New American Museum in New York, They earned more than $200,000, a massive fortune back then, equivalent to millions today. As the brothers aged, both began losing their eyesight. Thankfully, they were cared for into their 90s. But the myth never faded. Even in death, newspapers still referred to Plutonor as an actual wild man. The performance outlived the truth, and that was Barnum's specialty. Number 3. Mr. Frank Lentini. Born near the turn of the 20th century, Frank Lentini became one of the most renowned and longest-running sideshow performers in history. His condition was staggeringly rare. He had a fully formed third leg. That feature alone captivated audiences, but what truly shocked people was that he also had 2 functional sets of genitals. Though he never showcased that infamous detail on stage, it added to his allure and reportedly won over his wife, Teresa Murray, who later gave birth to their 4 two-legged children. Public fascination was endless. The most asked and awkward question of all: "Frank, we know you've got 2, so which one do you use?" He never answered. The mystery lingered. But between the charisma, the oddity, and the confidence, Frank wasn't just a freak show attraction. He was a legend. He carved out his own legacy, owned his condition without shame, and became unforgettable both on stage and off. Number 2. Schlitzie. Schlitzie, often promoted as the last of the Aztecs, was actually born in the Bronx in 1901, far from the exotic backstory that surrounded his name. He had a rare condition called microcephaly, which caused his skull and brain to remain severely undersized. This also brought significant cognitive challenges. Despite that, Schlitzie became one of the most adored sideshow acts of his era. He was a consistent performer in traveling circuses and freak shows, charming crowds with his vibrant energy and unforgettable presence. His film debut was in The Sideshow, 1928, but his breakout came with Todd Browning's 1932 cult film Freaks, where he played himself alongside other real performers. That role turned him into a lasting pop culture figure. His final big appearance came in 1968, ending a long and storied career. Schlitzie passed away in 1971 at age 70, but he left behind more than claps. He became an icon. Number 1. Sarah Houbolt. Sarah is a globally recognized performer celebrated for her captivating command of circus arts and physical theater. With a specialty in aerial silks and hula hoop routines, she wowed crowds with her graceful movement and creative execution. But her talents extended far beyond the stage. She also represented Australia in swimming at the 2000 Sydney Paralympic Games. She proudly embraces the phrase, "natural-born freak," a label once used in the 1930s sideshow culture to describe disabled performers. For Sarah, it's not about the challenges, it's about transforming them into something remarkable. Born with Hallermann-Streiff syndrome, a rare genetic disorder affecting bone growth, she stands only 144 centimeters tall and is legally blind. Still, Sarah stays focused on everything she can do, commanding the stage with her brilliance, creativity, and relentless drive. Her condition never defined her. Her art did. While Sarah captivated audiences by stretching boundaries, the next figure's fragile body would thrust him into the spotlight for the opposite reason: sheer survival. If you found this video interesting, be sure to like, share, and subscribe. Thanks for hanging with us, and we'll see you soon.